For 16 years, we've been building a site that's been called innovative, insightful, and informative. Now there's a new name for it. We're now NBCnews.com.
He said, get down on the ground, so I did. I mean, I could be dead right now.
I wish I had put my face over his so he could look at me.
She had to relive it all for the cameras. A new bride, married just 6 days. Then came that horrible night.
I see kind of a dark shadow. All I remember was the bright flash of the gun.
She told police a mysterious man burst into their new home and killed her husband.
I put my hands on his face and I told him I loved him.
There's no doubt her story was heartbreaking, but it was puzzling too. Who was this strange man? Or, as you may find yourself asking, was there a strange man at all?
A brand new bride tells the story of some mystery man that's got us at all alarm bells.
She was somebody we had to look at.
Now she's the one under scrutiny. Her clothes examined, her account questioned.
The detective asked me if I killed my husband.
What did happen that night? The truth would be far stranger than anyone knew.
I'm not the monster you make me out to be.
I'm Lester Holt, and this is Dateline. Tonight, a shot in the dark. Here's Josh Mankiewicz.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, a mile-high city famous for its annual balloon festival, and the city where a match made in heaven came in 2005 when a friend of Catherine Bailey's set her up with a man named Scott.
What was it that made your friend think that the two of you would be a good match?
I'm not sure if it was anything other than he was a tall, handsome man, and she knew that's what I liked.
And Scott Pierce certainly was tall. At 6'8" and more than 350 pounds, he was a gentle soul trapped in the body of an NFL lineman. The two soon fell in love, and nature played an important role in their lives, both their own good natures and their love of nature.
What'd you like about him besides that he was 6'8"?
He saw the beauty in anything. I mean, he would stop to take a picture of anything.
Scott was behind the lens for pictures like these.
We would make special trips out into the desert when the cactuses were blooming. We took a lot of photographs.
But nature alone wasn't important to Scott Pierce. He was also nurturing. This big guy also had a big heart. He dreamed of one day becoming a nurse practitioner.
If I had a plant and it was almost dead and I was like ready to give up on it, he wouldn't let me because there was a chance it could come back. He just wouldn't give up on anything.
In May 2008, nearly 3 years after they were matched, Scott and Catherine, who worked in retail, took a big step as a couple. They bought a house in northeast Albuquerque.
This was your first home?
Mm-hmm. I qualified for it on my own, actually, but with his nursing career finally taking off, we're going to be living okay.
What appealed to you about that house?
It looked very homey, and it gave us more room. I mean, we didn't need a huge house. We're both simple people.
A month later, they were married.
I, Scott, take you, Catherine, to be my wife.
Was there a honeymoon coming?
The honeymoon was going to take a back seat for a little while, which was fine. We had a house. You know, we still had boxes everywhere.
That decision to buy that home at that time, on that schedule, would one day become a choice Catherine and others would examine and re-examine. Because that honeymoon the new couple had put off would never come. Just 6 days after the wedding, Scott and Catherine's new life took a turn no one saw coming.
He actually stayed up late that night watching a movie and then came to bed. Next thing we know, the dogs are barking. I got up, went down the hall. I noticed the back door was open, and I thought, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have my glasses on, and I thought, why would Scott leave the back door open?
So if the back door had been open when he went to bed, he probably would have noticed it.
Yes. His routine was to go through the house and check that everything was locked.
Then, from nowhere, Catherine noticed something strange.
And I see kind of a dark shadow that looks like he's pointing a long, pointy thing at me. And I said, "Oh, Scott, stop messing around."
You thought it was your husband?
It didn't make sense that it would be a stranger in my home pointing a shotgun at me, so it had to be Scott playing a trick.
Tell me about this man with the shotgun. White, black, Hispanic?
A black shadow. That's literally all I saw. And then it snapped. This wasn't Scott.
What'd you think?
Your mind works very fast. He said, "Get down on the ground," so I did. And he said, "Where's Manny?"
Manny.
And I said, "What? What did you say?" And he said, "Where's Manny?"
And that's when, from the corner of her eye, Catherine caught sight of her husband. He'd woken up to see a man pointing a shotgun at his wife.
He was charging this guy.
Your husband of 6 days was coming to your defense.
Yeah. At that point, it was kind of a blur. All I remember was him turning very fast, but I saw the bright flash of the gun. And I think that kind of temporarily blinded me.
Where's the guy with the gun?
The only thing I can imagine is that he ran out the back door as soon as the gun went off.
Catherine grabbed the phone, called 911, and says she found Scott on the kitchen floor with a gaping wound in his neck.
Did you say anything to him?
Oh, yeah. I told him I loved him. I put my hands on his face and I told him I loved him. He had his hand up on his stomach, and I noticed it fell, but I'm fairly certain he did right there.
So by the time they loaded him into the ambulance and took him away, you didn't have a lot of hope.
I wouldn't even say that. I wasn't going to give up hope until somebody told me. Finally.
And minutes later at the hospital, someone did.
I remember the doctor finally walking in, and he said, "So tell me what happened." And I said, "No. Is he alive?" I wasn't going to play this game. I wanted to know right away. And he said, "No."
At age 41, Scott Pierce was dead 6 days after his wedding. And just like that, Catherine Pierce was a widow. What had happened in that kitchen? Who was Manny, the mysterious man for whom the killer had come calling? And who held the answers to all those questions?
A whole lot of questions in this case. Police were quick to set out to answer them, and they started with Catherine Pierce. When we come back, it's more than her story that's under scrutiny. It's everything. Her clothes from that night, her marriage, even a life insurance policy.
I knew something was coming.
Did she have something to hide? When A Shot in the Dark continues.